Welcome to the Overview Effect Meditation. Michelle, you want to kick us off?
I was going to give folks a couple minutes to join the room, and then we can get started if that's cool.
Absolutely. Oh, I see. We can see them coming in. It's like coming into the room.
Invisible people coming in. So they're coming in, but we don't really see their faces.
Oh, that's great. You can feel their energy.
Exactly. But good morning, everyone coming in.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on time. We're grateful. Good opportunity for our sound bowl.
Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give folks another minute or so, and then we'll get started.
Other favorite thing to do to get the space ready for meditation is to light a candle. So just as you're settling in, start to relax and let go of whatever you were doing right before. And help you just start to be in this space where we're creating together and the light that we bring.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to a global meditation on the theme of overview. This is a program in partnership with Sundance, the Wide Awakes, and Four Freedoms. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm greeting you today from the ancestral lands of the Chumash and Tongva people, otherwise known as Los Angeles. And today, my friends and I are going to be meditating and speaking on the topic of the overview effect, a term that was coined by Frank White, that explores, I guess, the shift in consciousness that astronauts and space explorers experience looking at Earth from outer space. And the state of clarity that that can bring to the mind, the body, and the spirit. So without further ado, I will pass the mic to Loretta. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So my name is Loretta Hidalgo Whitesides. I'm a future astronaut with Virgin Galactic, which means I bought a ticket to go to space and fulfill my childhood dream. And I'm really passionate about helping us become the kind of species that any of us would be proud to send to the nearest star system. So I like to say that I work in the space industry, and I like to say that I am creating the culture, the science fiction culture many of us love, like Sister Peace, to go along with the spaceships that we're building. So that's why the overview effect has always been really powerful for me since I discovered it in college 25 years ago, because it's about that profound shift you can have looking at the Earth. And you can imagine, so for those of you who meditate on the regular, you've experienced that profound feeling of oneness with everyone and everything all the time, or whenever, you have access to that. But you can imagine for some of the scientists and engineers who were hard driving and staying up all night and trying to get to the moon, that being in space and having a pause and being sort of like they couldn't miss it. It was so overwhelming. And so they had that profound experience of oneness with everyone and everything, just uh, just by looking out the window. And so we're excited to sort of bring those two worlds together today with the overview effect meditation, giving you the taste of looking at our home world from space and doing our meditation. So please take a comfortable seat. And I like to say, have your back kind of straight. Imagine you're like an antenna, and the straighter your antenna, the more you can pick up from the universe. You can just gently rest your hands in your lap. You can gently close your eyes and imagine that you are walking out to the launch pad to board your spaceship for your first mission to space. Your heart is beating with excitement and anticipation. You climb into your seat, you get strapped in, and you're just so grateful for this opportunity. You feel the rumble of the engines and the acceleration of a rocket motor blasting you through our precious atmosphere for 8 minutes. The rumble of your seat, the roar in your ears, the pressure of your weight, 3 times your weight on the back of your chair, laying down. And then suddenly, the engine's cut off. You can feel the weight forward on your straps as you begin to float. Everything goes quiet. All the roar is gone. All the atmosphere is gone. You unbuckle and you experience the most magical sensation of weightlessness that feels at once completely familiar, like the womb, natural, like you were born for this, and at the same time, completely otherworldly, something you never experienced before. Objects aren't moving like you turn into a kid again, watching your pen float in front of you, trying to understand what's happening, paying full attention, because the universe isn't acting like it always has. You can't take it for granted anymore. Your 3-year-old mind kicks in again. Your physics engine tries to understand what's happening. And you engage with play, and you can't help but notice the giant smile on your face. You gently push over to the window, and it's heart-stopping, soul-pounding, breathtakingly beautiful. In that moment, you are fully present, taking in every contour, every color, every cloud, every sensation of the air on your skin, every sound of a crewmate touching a wall. You're stunned by how present you are and how grateful you are. You look down and you can see lightning storms dancing across the planet. You see dust storms in the Sahara rising up giant red clouds that stretch all the way over the Atlantic to South America. You see Aurora dancing around the poles, their green lights and red lights flashing and playing in the cosmic breeze. It looks like a living system, a living being, so precious and fragile and beautiful. You look down just as your hometown is coming into view, and you're flooded with the happiest moments of your life. The proudest moments of your life. Loving moments, fun moments. And you realize that everything you've ever known, everyone you've ever known, is down there on this perfect, beautiful, serene globe. You stare more deeply into the swirl of colors and see the mountain ranges and the mountain reefs. Sorry, the ocean reefs and the clouds. It takes your breath away. How lucky are we to live on the most extraordinary, life filled blue green planet? Pass over into the night side of the earth, and you see the lights twinkling anywhere there are people down below. And all you feel is love for them. Every continent and every country you pass over, you just feel like an extension of you, your family. Your eyes and your senses are on hyper alert, taking in every pixel, savoring every sensation. It's all intoxicatingly beautiful and humbling. Grateful, grateful you get to be here as a representative of humanity, the sensing mechanism for humanity. One organism that you get to report back to and share this incredible experience with. You're no longer just you, you're part of a bigger, holistic system, playing your role selflessly, generously, humbly, lovingly. And you reflect on how blessed you are to be here, to be alive, to have all of the skills and the resources and the talents that you do. And you ask yourself, how am I going to be different now? How is this going to change the way I speak to my kids? How am I going to raise the standard that I hold myself to? What grudge am I carrying that I can let go of now? What hurts am I holding on to that I can let go of? What gifts can I free myself up to give? You see, our going to space is not just about how it changes us, it's about how we can better serve the cosmos.
Yeah, Loretta, might we have another sound of your beautiful bell?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Sister Peace.
Thank you, Loretta, for that beautiful meditation. And good morning, beautiful, bold, brilliant, beloved community. And I might also add space travelers, because we as earthlings are traveling in space. And I so appreciate the way Loretta has framed our meditation. Because imagine the journey that she just described for us. It's not only one of going up into space and looking upon our precious orb, but one where we can take the journey within and we can look upon our precious interconnectedness and interbeing. Because I do believe that until we actually have a deep, insightful connection with ourselves, that it may not be possible to have the link to the cosmos that we all aspire to have. Because that journey towards overview, it's an inner one. And when I listen to the astronauts or read their experiences of it, it it's all about what we're talking about today is the shift in consciousness. And that shift in consciousness is not outside of themselves. You know, the seeing the earth in her fragile form certainly was an impetus, but the change was within. And that's a place where we can begin. So, what can we do every day to keep us aware and connected to the universe and the cosmos within us? Because we all know that we're star children. We all know that we're made of the dust of the beginning. The dust of the beginning is us. And so, what can we do? Well, I think one of the first things we can do, we've already practiced, which is to meditate. Or if that sort of puts you off, contemplate or contemplative prayer, or just have a few quiet moments where we turn our attention and our energy within and see how well we can develop or cultivate our relationship to interbe with us. And then we go out concentrically in circles, those closest to us, those who we might habitate with, those who live across the street, those who live across town, in the state, in the country, and of course, the beings we've yet to be introduced to, those on the microscopic level and those on the largest macro level. They're all accessible within. So I just wanted to share that little bit with you. And I think I will pass it on to my brother, Miguel.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Loretta, for taking us to that beautiful, beautiful place of looking. I remember being a kid flying back between Guatemala and the United States and flying over the Gulf and seeing many times thunderheads all lined up over the Caribbean with lightning flashing inside of the thunderhead. And each one had a particular color. Sometimes they were orange tinted or reddish or bluish, green, purple. But anyway, what this reminds me of too is in one of the clips that I saw of Frank White. He was talking about looking at the Earth and remarking how the land had no borders, no borders between any of the countries. And so what's really interesting is these borders have to be dissolved. We can't see the world as the other, you know. So I'm going to read you a poem, and this is called Credo, written by Deborah Miranda. And basically, it's a way of understanding that the world is us. We are the world, in a way, to coin that, to hear that often um, cliched phrase. But cliches are, in some ways, there's truth in them. This is why they stick around for such a long time. So we have to remember that. And what is it? Spaceship Earth is another one, right? The big blue marble, the beautiful big blue marble. So this is called Credo. I believe that the scent of ions bristling on the edge of a thunderstorm chemically alters our brain cells like the breath of a passing god. I believe that round Sage green hills trigger the heart song of ancestors still dwelling in the ridges of Blue Mountains. I believe the liquid jungle cries of robins overflow from ancient mountains of praise. I don't believe in promises pulled from weeping children or lovers. I don't believe in the noble poor, the noble savage, or the born again politician. I believe in a brilliant, distracted creator who's forgotten to feed the kids but snags a Nobel with that terracotta sculpture. I believe in the languid lure of purple phlox on the road home, forget me nots sprouting in abandoned yards, the fervent green cries of 1,000 acres all sprouting in love at once to love this earth. So this is basically what we learn and what's been shared with us in such eloquent and beautiful ways, how to love the place that we live in and love each other loving this place. So I'm going to turn it over now to Elaine and continue this beautiful prayer from all these different angles and views.
Thank you, Miguel. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Loretta, for that beautiful meditation. I am coming from Edgewater, New Jersey, which are the ancestral lands of the Lenape and the Tappan tribe. And when I think of overview, I think of perspective. And as Loretta talked about looking down on this now small place, this small, almost marble that has rolling hills, weather systems, and people that have come throughout the ages. So there's who we are now, but we're this system of people for hundreds of thousands of years that have inhabited this land, that have enjoyed the pleasures of this land. And as we've enjoyed the pleasures and the sorrows, the pains, the happiness of the earth, the land that we've been on, we've been engulfed in different conflicts, minor disagreements, confusion about life. And there's something about that overview effect that makes us get perspective. And perspective is what I'm really kind of honing in on. Imagine where all of our conflicts are mean nothing compared to this whole system that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, that have housed butterflies and giraffes and people of all kinds and hundreds of languages and food in abundance. And what I thought was, imagine there are two people engaged in an argument, a disagreement that might even come to blows, right? They're standing outside, and as they're having this argument, this disagreement, a comet the size of a football field flies by. What is going to happen with those two people? These people are not going to continue to argue. They will look at the spectacle that is before them, this earthly or out of space creation that's happened. And that's what overview effect does. Overview is that large comet that's come before us to say all of our smaller disagreements, all of our smaller conflicts, smaller confusions pale in comparison to the whole. It helps us to come back to what's true, what's real, and what is. And it's rooted in gratitude for the earth, gratitude for all that we have, and all that is possible. What from here can we build if we're not engaged in petty disagreements, smaller conflicts, tiny disputes? It doesn't mean that confusion won't happen, right? Because this life is real, that we will have conflicts even with ourselves. But when we can have a higher perspective and be able to see us as the whole, there are so many paths forward that support the community as a whole, as opposed to just our small oneness in conflict. There's the community and communalism. So with that, I'm going to pass on to Tony to share. I'm sorry, Michelle. I'm going to pass back to Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine, Sister Peace, Miguel, and Loretta, for all your amazing insights and your generosity. When I think of overview, it really makes me think of letting go and the power of letting go. I'll tell a quick story about how I, in one way or another, came to understand what letting go meant. And it was fleeting, like all moments. And, we tend to forget these things. And that's why I think, being in practice with you all and practicing alone is a helpful reminder of the meaning of these different lessons that we learn. I went to the desert a couple years ago just to get away for a quiet weekend and away from the distractions of work and phone calls and emails. And I remember sitting in a chair staring out at the desert, and I could feel the anxiety welling up inside of me, just mounting, almost like a boiling pot of water. And I was sitting there without distractions for the first time in I don't know how long. And the sounds of the desert were coming alive. So imagine you're having an anxiety attack and it seems as if everything around you is coming alive. And the things, the sounds that we fail to notice, the wind blowing, animals scurrying in the bushes, those felt and sounded like really loud, violent noises. I could feel them in my body. And so there was a moment where I was like, I have to go inside. I can't sit out here anymore. And I was kind of pacing around the house, and I really started to break down, actually. And I could feel myself clinging to something, and I can't quite explain what I was clinging to. But it was through almost just a moment of utter despair that suddenly this warm feeling overcame me and everything became still for a second. And I no longer felt afraid, and I felt very connected to everything around me. I felt for a moment that the trees outside were me and I were those trees. And all of a sudden I was looking at the landscape again, and with an entirely different relationship to it, with an entirely different perspective. And I'm not sure what happened in those moments, but it felt like to me what letting go is all about. And that's what the overview effect recalls for me in this moment. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I will pass this on to my friend, Tony.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Michelle, Loretta, Sister Peace, Miguel, and Elaine. I'm Tony Patrick, here in New York, the land of the Lenape, near a wonderful river, the Genesee to be exact. And I want to usher us into a section that we call our riff portion of the program. And RIF stands for resonance, imagination, forgiveness, and fun. And this is where we kind of switch things up a little bit. We pose questions to you, the audience, as we have a conversation. And so as you've surmised, today's theme is overview. And what comes up for me in particular, because if I, what happens with this crew is I'm meditating, but then I'm also trying to glean these little nuggets of gold that are always being dropped during each share in meditation. And so what is coming up in particular is interbeing came up for me. Sister P spoke to that. Elaine and Miguel talked about gratitude, but I also thought about, and I don't know where this term comes from, but would you say poetic technology, but art is technology, because the poem also, right, is poetry is also a technology one uses, right, for transformation and embodiment and resonance. Loretta's meditation, definitely I traveled off the planet thanks to Loretta, and came back down to earth and gave up a few grudges simultaneously. So thank you for that. And of course, the image of the comet is going to remain with me. The spectacle that is used to reset and to prioritize, right? The wonder that we're surrounded by and live in. And then, of course, Michelle, I'm always fascinated by your stories, because just your accounts, we always travel on your accounts. So we're there with you. We feel your anxiety. We're happy when it's released, when there's some catharsis. But in particular, it's something that you mentioned, which was, if we're talking about regions on this planet, the desert. And there's something about, and I guess I would start there, in terms of these inner worlds, right? So we talked about the external world, and we talked about space, but that is also, it's interesting, right? That when we think of space as the cosmos, we also use it on an everyday basis in terms of our own personal containers, but also it speaks to an internal space, which is also as vast as the cosmos. So it's funny because I'm getting to my question, but in a comic that I wrote a long time ago, there's a character that is considered a subliminal hitman, right? It was injected into your consciousness, wipes out your past loves, demons, whatever you want him to kill in your head. But where he exists is what we called IR, which is internal reality, right? And so this Sundance Festival, there's a lot of VR, there's a lot of virtual reality, augmented reality, but I definitely want to speak to the internal reality during this session today. And so the question I have is, for this crew, and I guess as we talk, we can pose questions to other people. In terms of your internal reality, where are your oasis? Where's your oasis? And where's your desert? It took me a minute to get there, but I got there. So here we are. In your internal reality, where's your oasis? Where's your desert? I'd like to open the floor for whoever would like to contribute to this part of the conversation.
So I'd love to jump in, Tony, only because my negative bias goes straight to the desert, right? Everybody knows their failings.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, the oasis is really meditation. The oasis is meditation. Through meditation, through being quiet, I can see broader. I can listen more. I can be proactive, introspective, and can navigate situations, scenarios, even myself, because the conflict with myself that comes up even in meditation becomes clearer for me. So my oasis is always going to be meditation, whether it's for 5 minutes or for 20 minutes, whether it's I have pain in my body or mental anguish, the oasis is there. But the desert is talking. The desert for me is in conversation and or trying to be right. Let's just say that. And there's a little Sunday morning vulnerability happening, or Sunday evening for some of you. But in trying to be right is the desert in and that's that conflict piece. In talking and not listening, and just I need to get my point across. I need to get my point across. That is, I'm bereft of knowledge in that moment by just talking. That's for me. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
I do, but I feel like desert is interesting because desert in a way is being disconnected, you know, not only from yourself, but from the world around you. So, and we have to resort to devices like Tony was talking about the technology, right? The technology of the heart. And also the technology of nature. That's why I was struck with this poem, because it invites you to make the thunderstorm your friend, right? The most unusual way to pick a friend and to get grounded. And we have to learn how to electrically or elementally change ourselves from how to get out of that little hamster cage that's going on inside of us, right? Or in the world around us through some sort of a device. We need a device. We have to get very clever, stealthy about how we're going to change the inner, like you said, talking. That's the desert, or the monkey mind, as some people call it. Definitely.
Miguel, something you said brought up for me. Well, I have a love for the desert, so I don't think of it as necessarily negative. But I guess when I think about the desert and the oasis, I sort of think of the desert as what is, like reality, and then I think of the oasis as being aware of what actually is, because we're constantly living in here, in our thoughts, in our fears, in the past, in the future. We're very rarely right here, and recognizing that each moment is different, and no moment will ever repeat itself. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Ilan Kuzali put in the chat that the oasis is the time and space where I'm alone, and the desert is the outer world scenarios and my reflection towards it. So it's interesting that there's some resonance. Thank you. Sister Peace and Loretta, is there anything that comes up for either one of you?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Tony. When I think of oasis, I think of compassion. It's true. The place where we meditate, or when we can pause and take a few breaths, or listen to a bell and take it in. Those those are beautiful moments. And when I was contemplating, you know, our time together, compassion kept coming up for me. And I kept saying, well, what's compassion? Well, what is that? Of course, it's love and care of another, and of course ourselves, never forgetting that. But also, what I said, but is it opposite passion? Uh, and then I said to myself, I came up with the term. It's not just compassion; it's calm passion. It's calm passion. And just boy, now of course I really got to sit with that. But I just wanted to share that it's not only having the spaciousness and the generosity to give of ourselves, and I don't mean money, but this is time and resources if we have them. But it's calm passion that calms ourselves and can has the capacity to calm others. And thank you, Michelle, because when you were speaking, you reminded me of another what I call bumper sticker. It came up, and about letting go, right? And I agree with you. To me, the desert is beautiful. I had the chance to be in California a few years ago during the super bloom, and it was stunning. It was stunning. Who would have thunk that on something that looks by appearance to be, scrawny and not much life, teeming with life for those who have the eyes to see. Whether the super bloom is there or whether you have the capacity to sense that beneath the sand, there's a lot going on. And you said you talked about the letting go. And I thought, wow, that super bloom was love, man. So how about let love let go?
I could hang out with Sister Peace any day. This is so fun. For me, the desert is judgment, which is the precursor to anger. And I spend way too much time in that, roaming around that desert. Even, this weekend I was on this Zoom call and there was this incredible speaker and she was just blowing my mind. And I was so in like a beautiful state. My daughter came in, pissed off at her brother because the screen and that screen and he's that. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to meditate, be in a beautiful state here. What are you interrupting me for? Go deal with your stuff. And I was like, damn, that's not working. So that's my desert. Just how fast I can go there and how much it takes away from my life. And my oasis is when I'm serving people. When I'm at Redwood Adventure Camp, leading a ropes course. I could be on a ropes course or run a ropes course with the Jedis and, and helping them. I'm just so present. I'm so there and I'm so of service. And I call it world two because I'm not in this world. I'm in another world where I'm just there and helping people see their greatness and push themselves out of their comfort zones, and everyone's being authentic and vulnerable, and my cheeks are hurting because I'm smiling so much because I can't help it because that's my happy place. That's my oasis.
Beautiful. So what just came up for me also, right? Loretta, you just spoke about world two. So again, the varying worlds that we inhabit in one body, right? And Sister Peace just spoke to, because I also want to stay on this idea of super bloom, right? And what's underneath the desert. Because I think that's a great analogy. But I want to bring this up before we tackle this a little bit more. Wade Harbelushin says that there is no greater gift that you can give your internal reality than meditation. I also see the desert as beauty, something that inherently connects people, yet gives you the space to be alone, and can both be very powerful. So I guess I'm going to pose this question, which everyone has answered. I think we've answered what the desert is to you, but what does your super bloom look like? Is my next question, and we'll pose this to everyone as well in the chat. Feel free to insert your shares. It's very weird here to ask you to share in the Q&A, but feel free to share in the Q&A your own answers instead of questions, or we're always looking for better questions. What questions should we be asking? That's something else as well. And yes, so I'm going to ask again, what is your super bloom? Also, Melissa Ballin has presented a haiku in the chat, which says, comet meditates, spectacle of wonderment, oasis reset. And that's an impromptu haiku inspired by this panel. So we're all creating art together as well. I appreciate that. All on a Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. Super bloom. Anyone want to speak to that?
Ooh, my first image is being connected and not feeling alienated and feeling like I belong. I remember when I was younger, I had an experience of what they call the universal sound current, which is when you tune in and you actually feel the whole vibration of the universe, and nothing is unrelated to anything else. Everything is connected. So I would say, for me, a super bloom would be feeling like I belong here and I am part of everything, and everything is part of me. No matter where I am, what I'm doing, or how I'm feeling, there's no sense of others, us and them. It's all us. It's all me. So that would be one way of looking at it. So no matter what you touch, what you eat, what you sense, what you hear, it's like feeling like a whole orchestra in a way. So that's my sense of super bloom.
Mm.
It's great. Thanks, Miguel. For me, when you said super bloom, I was excited because I love this image of all these single-celled microorganisms, all living their own separate lives. And then every so often, maybe with this, when there's an environmental stress, and it'll trigger them to come together, and they form a superstructure, a stalk. Like all these microorganisms will come together and make one single stalk, and it'll make all these spores. And it's a way to reproduce. And they could, because together on their own, they can't do this. But when they come together, they can make a stalk and make these spores that can catch the wind or can be passed on by an animal and spread life beyond what they could have done on their own. And it inspires me so much because what I'm most inspired by is like, what if humanity, all our individual selves could come together and form a superstructure, a unit, like one being, and we create spores and we send them off into the universe as like our super bloom, our way of spreading love and beauty and color out into the cosmos.
Love that. Michelle, any ideas about super bloom? Thank you, Loretta.
Yeah, I mean, I think my super bloom is kind of similar to Miguel's. It's spaces where I can be vulnerable, such as this one, even though we are with people we might never meet. But in our meditation group, when I'm with my collaborators, when I'm with my daughter, just those moments of being able to feel fully and express that. And I notice that when I'm in those spaces and I feel accepted, I'm my most creative. I'm my most excited. I can feel my heart beating so hard in my body. I can feel tingling throughout my entire body. So I think that's my super bloom. It's vulnerability.
I'm like 5 seconds away from getting into a superpowers conversation, Michelle. You're putting me into that zone. Anyone else want to speak on super bloom before I ask the next question and share some of the things that are in our Q&A section?
So real quick, I just wanted to mention a
Please,
super bloom
please.
moment that I
Please.
had. So I don't know if anybody's ever seen the haka. The haka is a New Zealand kind of like war dance. And if you've ever been in the
Oh.
presence of an actual haka, you've felt the super bloom. The love from the haka, and if you're doing it, if you're lucky, because I've heard that, it's one of those things you're not really kind of supposed to do. But even if you're watching it, like YouTube the Haka, and I have to tell you, I have chills now. You'll feel love like you've never felt it, and it is a super bloom. And the thing is, there's this synergetic energy that's going around the group of people doing the Haka together, and just you feel it in your whole body, like your whole energy, like everything is just vibrates with that super bloom energy. So the Haka, check it out.
You're missing a little bit of that story, Elaine.
Okay,
Because
so
I think I know who.
yes,
Yeah,
okay, so I'll
should we
give you a little
mention
more.
her? Yeah,
I'll give
please,
you more of the
please
story.
give more
So
of that story.
the first time I ever did the Haka was on a work retreat, and now I'm just kind of like doing some of the Haka was a work retreat. Yes, yes, and someone introduced it to us. So my organization, there are about 50 of us, and she showed us what we were going to do, and then we went outside in this retreat center that was kind of like staunchy and stuff like that. And when we all started doing it and breathing and the sounds that come from the Haka, and it was so transformative, everyone in tears. And I don't know if I can even verbalize it, but it was something that I did with people that I love, people who I've known for 20 years. So to do it with them also was unbelievable, unbelievable. But Google wedding Haka, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's great, and I've just been obsessed since. But yeah, the Haka.
Shout out to
I want
our friend Anna.
Anna Zolgariaga.
I
Yeah.
want to
Mhm.
respond to that because this is
Please.
really critical.
Mm.
It's important to understand that we have to be tempered to handle the potency of life force. Life force is incredibly potent. If you're not tempered to handle it, you suppress it. And when you suppress it, there's danger in there because you can blow up, you fry a system when it comes through. And the Haka is one of the tempering mechanisms or that's this ritual technology that gets us to a place where we can actually handle a life force that's cursing through the universe, you know? And culturally, this has been suppressed for many, many, many generations. The ritual structures that we have in place right now can't handle it. That's why one of the reasons why there's so much violence in the world right now. Addiction, suicide, you can name it. Sorry, I'm going there, but this is really important. And these things are critical to be able to handle the potency that needs to curse through us in order to renew life, you know. And this is so it's important. Thank you for bringing it in because it's one of the things that we have to constantly work at. And if we don't maintain ourselves in that with that kind of a relationship to energy, the energy has to be circulated, and it has to circulate through us. This is the only way life really renews itself, and how we connect ourselves, how we put ourselves. It's part of the crudest way of saying is humans. We have taken ourselves out of the food chain. We don't participate with the cycles of life. So, and we have to learn how to participate with the cycles of life in full potency, in full relationship, and really be active and alive and present with it. And this is not the only way, but it's one of the ways, the ritual structure that's taught in those traditions. So, thank you for bringing that in, Elaine. Yeah.
We have a whole nother universe. And when we start talking about rituals, so we can't get into all of that today, but I can't wait for that one. We got to put that should be the next one. Rituals. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I just want to share some things in the chat. Graham said, "Oasis make me think of refugia, or of havens of life. Without the desert, you can't have the oasis. Without the abyssal plains of the ocean, you can't have the uniqueness of life in hydrothermal vents and around the fallen bodies of cetaceans. Without the desolation of the lunar surface, you can't imagine the safety of the spacesuit or the habitat. Without the cosmic void, our world wouldn't be the refuge for all life as we know it. The oasis of silence inside of us would be hard to recognize without the cacophonous desert of our daily lives. So maybe a super bloom would be the spontaneous outburst of life inhabiting the refugia." Like that. Graham, there we go. You got to do finger snaps, hand claps, head nods. I'm going to get to Allison. Hi, Allison. Allison Green shared, Um, I think it's creosote. The creosote plant of the desert has 3 layers of roots, much happening underneath the sand. All one plant connected. They super bloom fragrance announcement when rain is coming. I also think the creosote is used as an antiseptic as well, from what I was researching. So thank you, Allison. Um, Nicole shared interbeing, we all belong in the awe of this life and gratitude for it. Super bloom, this precious moment. Um, so this brings us to, because Frank White is with us here today in the chat. Hi, Frank. And so Frank contributed that he thinks we are all part of a super organism, whether we are aware of it or not. The overview effect brings us into that awareness. So my next question, and probably final question here for us to riff on, is we've talked about deserts, oasis, super bloom. Seems like we're moving through a progression. And now we're at overview. So one of the things that came up in one of our earlier sessions was the obstacles to overview. Can someone speak to either or both? Which is, what do you believe are our biggest obstacles? And I know we've spoken to this somewhat today, but maybe it's a personal thing. What is your biggest obstacle to overview, or what's your direct route into overview? Can we share that? And that's we're going to put that in the chat as well.
Mm.
Direct route or biggest obstacles
You
towards
know,
yeah, go ahead, Sister Peace.
all
Yeah.
right. It's funny. The answer that I had for Super Bloom applies here. And I think one of our biggest obstacles is we don't have some awe. We have lost the capacity to be and to see awesome. Just to turn the word around, awe, just that from the everyday itty bitties of life, as I would say with another team of mine, my grounded team. And for me, that awesome, give me some awe, comes when in the faces of young people and children, from the 4-year-old to the high school students I've been able to work with virtually for several months, to my beloved Sharon in jail. To see smiles, to see light go off. One child said, we asked what's next. He said, what do you mean next? I've never thought of next. He never thought of next. And then that was the child who's going up to everybody, what's next? What's next? What's next? Miss Anderson, what's next? Sister Peace, what's next? I mean, his mind was, and another child who, the science teacher, when he asked, he said, I wonder if the earth has a shadow. He asked this question. He had no knowledge of it. And the teacher said, don't be silly, sit down. Well, years later, while in jail, the juvenile detention, he asked us, and we showed him a film of an eclipse. And that child was in awe and changed forever. So the cultivation of whatever my story just meant to you is what we need towards overview.
I'll go. When my third daughter was born, I was present, and I saw the body emerge, right? And when the body, if you want to understand, life is precious. And everybody should see somebody being born and somebody cross over die. But when I saw my daughter emerge, she was blue, dark, this is very strange. And then she started breathing, and to watch the color come into her body from the lungs all the way out was incredible. It was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life. The miracle of how precious life is. That's the fastest, most direct route, right? To that aha moment. But when you realize that we are so linear in our thinking that we can't stop and we want to freeze the moment. So we have to embrace life, right? It's confusing for people because to go back to the overview, right? So that I'm going to give you to a very personal, intimate, and then the other one is the sun is always rising. The sun is always setting. It's always midnight somewhere and it's always noon somewhere, all at the same time. It's winter somewhere, it's fall somewhere, it's spring somewhere, and we can't comprehend that. So we have to extricate ourselves out of that. And this is where we get into trouble when we forget that, and that's awesome. Both of those things are awesome, right? Imagine, and the third thing is a friend of mine wrote a song and he says this: there is no sunrise, it is we who are turning. So we forget what the relationship is to what's happening around us motion wise. So I'll give you three different things, that I just to consider.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Miguel. My mission is to have people brought to their knees with awe. And I think one of the biggest obstacles to that is how jaded we are as adults. Like, I noticed it in myself, like, how exciting or how amazing does something have to be to like really be amazing? And one of my friends, Mike Mongo, he just turned 56 this week, and he's got like the wonder and excitement and enthusiasm of a 6-year-old. And anytime you bring him anything, he's like, whoa, that's awesome. And so I've been challenging my students to lower their threshold of awesome, to be like, whoa, a ladybug, that's awesome. Whoa, lemonade, that's awesome. And that's one of the things I love about space is, because the opposite of jadedness is gratitude, being in awe of everything. And in space, you don't take air for granted. You're like, oh my God, this planet's got breathable oxygen. Woo, this is fantastic. I can breathe. Wow. You can be in awe of the air. You don't even need a thing, or you don't need any things. You can just breathe and it's free. No one's even charging me for this air at this planet. This is cool. Or water. Like, wow, this planet's got water. Look at all the water. There's so much water. I was out at sea for a month in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Didn't see land for a month. And I'm not an ocean girl. I'm a mountain girl. So this was way out there for me. But I was so present to that we live on a water planet. And gravity, like not even taking gravity for granted. Like in space, you're like, oh, where'd my pencil go? And so on Earth, I'm like, oh, thank God we got gravity to keep things easy. Everything works so smoothly. And in space, you got to come up with all these elaborate systems to deal with it. But we've got this perfect, beautiful gravity for our trees and for our water and for ourselves. So not taking anything for granted and just being awed and awesome by everything.
I'm wowed by these responses. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you. Michelle, did you have anything that you want to share maybe on this?
Yeah, thank you. Loretta, actually, I just really love what you said. And I think for me, the path to it is gratitude also. And it's actually something that my daughter teaches me many times a day, because I forget. I'm one of those jaded adults who is, oh God, I'm inconvenienced by this little thing, or this person's late to a meeting, or oh, my daughter's crawling on my head while I'm trying to give a talk. All the things that, and she's here, which is why I moved inside, because she just woke up. But she's constantly in awe all the time, and so excited and so happy about everything, from the smallest things to the largest things, watching her savor her food, watching her eat. When we walk down the street, she's just looking at everything in great detail, like picking up the smallest pebble, being like, wow, look at this, mommy. And so, yeah, it's having gratitude for the smallest things. Those smallest things make up this larger whole that we all get to experience, and be a part of. So thank you, Lil.
Thanks, Lil. Oh! Yeah, this brings us back to the wow, right? This world of wonder, right? And I wonder if, I think Lil has a contribution. I'm not sure. I don't know. Lil. Okay, Lil's like, take these out. That brings us back to Sister Peace. Sister Peace, I'm telling you, all the gems happen sometimes before these sessions and after. But Sister Peace, Elaine asked you a question about your headphones. Your and what was your response? What was that? Do you remember? Sister Peace, you're on mute. Do you guys remember? Do you remember,
Yeah,
Loretta?
Dharma technology.
Dharma technology.
I love it.
Right. That's right. Yes, it's sometimes, and it's true, sometimes our technologies are not used for good, but let us not forget the times when they are what my teacher would call a dharma tool. In other words, a tool for good, an instrument for good, of connectedness, in the case of computers and cell phones and all of our other gadgets and gadgets, especially during this time of pandemic.
Yes.
Where would we be? Where would we be? Some of us are lucky enough to be in cohabitation with others, and some of us are in cohabitation with ourselves, which is a wonderful practice if it doesn't scare you. Um, and yes, it is a dharma tool, and let's just keep that in mind. And when we use it, when uh, bearing that in mind, what is it we're taking in, in the windows of our senses, and to try and keep that as honorable and wholesome and harmless as we can.
Well, speaking to that, Sister CW, in our answer question Q&A space, mentioned being thankful after living through the historic fires in Northern California this year and experiencing the lack of breathable air for weeks really makes one appreciate the generosity of life on Earth. And I believe there was another share here, but I think we will probably end on this, on Nicole's, on Debbie Tigel's statement. But before we do that, and so I will share this last statement, and then I think I'm going to turn it over to Miguel to close us out with a poem. But Debbie Digel said, the direct route to overview is comprehending that all humans share common experiences, and it's not only the me. This builds greater empathy, inner strength, and tenacious fortitude.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
I like that. Tenacious fortitude.
Tenacious fortitude.
Right.
We'll take it. We'll
Yeah,
take
right.
it. So thank all of you. Thank all of you for joining us today. Miguel Rivera is going to close this out, but we want to thank Sundance, Four Freedoms, the Wide Awakes, everybody in the Overview crew, Definitely Loretta for being here with us today and transforming the space. Thanks, Frank, for being in the chat amongst everyone who has joined us today. Thank you for your contributions. It was a beautiful, emotional morning. I definitely felt a lot of emotion coursing through my body as we went through this session, and also a lot of calm and peace and hope. So from there, much love to everybody. Thank you, Micah. Micah wishes everybody love. And Miguel, please feel free to take us out.
Okay, just one
and
moment.
Jason Nichols, sorry. One more thank you.
Oh yeah, Jason.
Big ups to Jason. Thank you, Jason Nichols, and the Wide Awakes Collaboratory. Like, amazing work. All right. I'm done now.
This is a short poem by my dear, dear friend Humberto Acabal from Guatemala, Maya Quiche poet. I forgot to mention my lagoon, which is Chicabal. That's my water. But it says that, I'll read it in Spanish. La respuesta. Abrir la tierra con las manos, llenarse con su aroma, levantar la cara al cielo y comer el viento, eso es la paz, contestó la abuela. The answer. To open up the earth with your hands, get filled with its scent. Raise your face to the sky and eat the wind. That is peace, the grandmother said. Blessings to all of you. Eat the wind.
Thank all of you, and thank Melissa Ballin again for those 2 wonderful haikus.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.